Charlie Munger is one of my life heroes. He's a beacon for rationality, and he's a prime example of accepting adversity when it happens, seeing reality as it is, and rising up to meet that adversity, and ultimately overcoming it. And he's had plenty of adversity in his life, despite the fact that you might see him as, incredibly successful billionaire, partner with Warren Buffett, but he had a son die at a young age. He lost an eyeball, and there are other challenges that he's faced. You can read more about it in the wonderful biography called Damn Right about Charlie Munger. And so earlier today, he was at a Daily Journal shareholder meeting. He presided over it. I'll leave a link to it below, sharing his wisdom with the world. I thoroughly enjoy it. I always learn something from it. But in today's example, what really got me thinking wasn't just what he had to say, but actually Elon Musk's response to it, and arguably the terrible advice or terrible warning that Charlie Munger provided to Elon Musk. Let's dive into that in just a second. If this is your first time tuning in, my name is Daniel. You're watching Unrivaled Investing. This is a no-hype, mission-focused channel trying to find you exceptional companies and unrivaled investments. In full disclosure, this is not financial advice, and I did not own stock in Tesla, TSLA Stock. And so what's going on here? And so Munger at one point during the meeting was talking about how he was proud of having not invested in cryptocurrency, saying it should be banned, and likens it to a venereal disease. That's quite a comparison. I'm sure some crypto folks would love to comment about that. I personally can't vouch for any of these aspects. But if someone would like to share anything about cryptocurrency or venereal disease, I welcome it in the comments below. But here it is. What Elon Musk had to share. That's really what sort of mentally got me going. Was that he said, here it is. I was at lunch with Munger in 2009, where he told the whole table all the ways Tesla would fail. So imagine Musk sitting at a table with Charlie Munger. Maybe they're at some sort of golf club. It's a big table, I'd imagine, filled with executives, high net worth individuals, titans of industry. And here it is, Charlie Munger just listing all the ways Tesla could fail. Oh, you got this terrible competition. You got all this, manufacturing challenges. You want a non-union workforce. Oh, that's going to be challenging. Look at all the companies, the auto companies that haven't gone bankrupt. Okay, let's go through that. So he's going through this list. Oh, the inventing these batteries. And so going through this list, and Musk goes, made me quite sad, but I told him I agreed with all those reasons and that we would probably die. So here it is. Musk recognizes that the hyper-rationality from Charlie Munger was probably right, but it was worth trying anyway. That's what he finishes. It was worth trying anyway. And I think this is part of the reason why, Elon Musk resonates so much with a lot of people, is that it's sort of this human story here, this very human appeal that he's given it his all, and people want to root for him. Normally when you see a billionaire, one of the world's wealthiest people, you go, oh man, you see a lot of societal frustration. Oh, how come he's so rich and I'm so poor? That sort of mentality. But when you see that sort of struggle, you root for him. You go, man, he thought it would probably die. He agreed with Charlie Munger's logic, but it was worth trying anyways because he saw the appeal. He saw the need for society to go to a more sustainable solution with autos, and this is something that he was passionate about. And so there's a lot to learn here. There's a lot to digest from thinking about this, and things that investors should consider, and just people in general. I think a couple of things to consider is one. Like, as powerful and smart and hyper-rational as Charlie Munger, is and was, and you can watch the video Daily Journal. Like, look, he is still a hero of mine. Like, a lot of folks will probably say, oh man, he's just an old turd and you shouldn't be listening to him. What was he know? Look, he could have been he could have been worth more than Buffett if he had, partnered with with Elon Musk, instead he blew it. And so I'm sure there's going to be a lot of the haterade going around. But I think really the first lesson is just don't be a jackass. Like, don't be that asshole in life. Like, the reality is life's too short. And so, yeah, you can be hyper rational. You can have Spock-like rationality and be like, I think this is a dog shit idea. You can do that. But what you really, I think, need to do is recognize we're all in this together. There's a good chance we all live once, and this is it. who knows about an afterlife? And so just be nice to everybody around you. Like, let's build each other up as opposed to tear each other down. Just think about it. Here it is, Elon Musk. Clearly that stuck with him. The fact that Charlie Munger sort of tore him down. And so I doubt, Charlie Munger even cares at this point. It's very clear from watching him online. He's like, I'm 98 years old. I don't really care. I don't have any envy that I'm working through or anything like that. And you get that sense, as you watch him. But I think it's an important lesson for everyone else that's not Charlie Munger, because you don't want to be that asshole that told Elon Musk like you're going to fail. And I think this is obviously a huge example. You're not going to probably come across an Elon Musk. Most people won't. But there will be other people that will, work hard towards some venture, and maybe it will work out. So I think it's important to take the mindset of rationality, but combine it with the emotional, the empathy, and saying, look, I'm rooting for you. Good luck to you. I don't think it'll work. But hey, maybe I can help you out somehow. Let me know how I can help. And so I think that's one thing. Another aspect is, in addition to don't be a jerk, another approach is just be open-minded. Like, here's a prime example. Charlie Munger, one of the greatest investors ever, and to recognize, like, look, anyone can be wrong. You need to be open-minded, especially with investing. But I'd argue with the world that we're living in, that's increasingly disruptive, increasingly facing just incredible innovation, be open-minded to where the world is going. Most people don't have any idea. And so just be open-minded to it. Look at one quarter at a time. And I think that's the next, data point to consider, thinking about this, is that, here it is, Charlie Munger digging in his heels probably and never revisiting Tesla along the way up, becoming $1 trillion company. I think it's probably important to update your thesis as time goes by. So, you see, here's all the reasons why it's going to fail. But then give it a few years. Let's see if your thesis is still true. Is Elon Musk knocking off those risks one by one? Is he dealing with them? And so you consider these aspects. And once again, I doubt that Charlie Munger has any sort of greed or remorse that he didn't get in on Tesla. He's rich enough. He's happy with his investments. He's got Costco. That's worked out well. He's got Berkshire Hathaway. He's got a bunch of Chinese investments through his partnership with Li Lu. And that's like it. That's largely what the Munger family owns. They also have some like properties in Los Angeles. And so I think this is a data point. But for everyone else that's not Munger, update your thesis accordingly. Check it out. Verify that thesis over time. And I think another key aspect from this is, no matter, even if you have this Spock-like, logic when you're looking at a company, it's important for you to size up management and try to find the missionaries in life. Trying to find the companies where this guy's in it. He's in it to win it. His heart's in it. Even if the odds are against him, try to find the crazy ones that are going to go all in. And it's a mission for them. And I think that approach, aligning yourself with that approach, is certainly going to be a more interesting and arguably fun lifestyle. Now, look, everyone's going to have their own journey, but this is sort of eye-opening to me. Like, man, Daniel, let's revisit my own portfolio to see which management really are missionaries, where this is their mission to build this company. This is their mandate. This is how they live. It's not just, I'm a rich founder or what have you, and they're eagerly selling stock, but it's like they live and dream, and you talk to them, and it's so ingrained in who they are. And I think another aspect is, while Charlie Munger advocates effectively the punch card approach of maybe like 3 bets in your portfolio, I think this does reflect that it probably, for everyone that's not Munger, once again, to consider having a open mindset to diversification. And so, yeah, you might still make a big bet when the odds are extremely favorable. When you're looking at like 10 to 1 and you think the odds are just, the probabilities are extremely favorable. Looking at that, make a big bet. But for everything else, for the Teslas of the world, where you find that missionary, and they're starting to prove that they're succeeding and they're growing and they're finding product market fit, why not consider a small allocation. It doesn't need to be that big. It doesn't need to be, 20% of your portfolio. Maybe it's just 0.1% of your portfolio. Enough for you to say, hey, I'm excited to be participating with this person on their journey. And I'm excited to track it over time. And maybe at some point when there's a shakeout, you've followed it for long enough and you said, now is the time that I'm going to buy more. Or heck, it does work out and it goes from 0.1% to 1% to 10% to, worth 100% of your portfolio just because it goes on a crazy run. And so that is worthwhile in my opinion. And that's part of the reason why, in addition to, let's say, larger bets, I do have a lot of teaser positions where it's something where I'm eager to sort of track it. And I think there's a lot of art there in terms of saying, well, what's the appropriate size between, having enough skin in the game versus just sort of tracking it. And how much is too much, sometimes. So you do need to consider those aspects. So I think, looking at this, there's a lot of lessons to consider from this. I mean, once again, I still have immense respect for Charlie Munger, but when you see this aspect, Elon Musk clearly, it clearly bothers him to respond years later. And I think it's trying to teach people that, hey, whether or not it's cryptocurrency or what have you, have an open mind to it, but be rational. Be rational, judge it, have a rational framework. Don't just say, oh, I'm going to go buy Dogecoin or something like that. Say, here's the reason why I'm going to. Here's the metrics that I'm going to judge on why this thesis is correct or isn't correct, and judge that over time. Oh, I think there's going to be, if you're going down the road of Doge, which I'm not, and I'm certainly not advising, but you're like, hey, how many more transactions are going? Like having very rational framework for sizing something up. With Tesla, do they actually have an autonomous fleet? I'd argue that's the point you'd look at with someone like Cathie Wood, who says it's worth, several $1 trillion over time. But I look at this and I think it's so important, don't be that jerk, have an open mind, recognize the world is going so much faster, innovating at such a faster speed than it did for thousands of years. So recognizing that we're in a different era, that you're going to maybe want to consider smaller bets to say, hey, I don't know which one of these is going to go crazy, but I'm finding the companies where there's a mission, that they have a mandate, there's this mission-driven zeal from management where they're saying, this is my life goal to build this. And that's part, what I'd argue what you'd want a partnership with. And so it's stirring a lot of thoughts here, a lot of emotions and thoughts here that I'm looking at, because on the one hand, Charlie Munger is still a hero of mine, but on the other hand, he really did blow it here. He really this was a big mistake. This could have been something, and it probably would have meant the world to Elon Musk for him to be like, yeah, sure, $1 million. And I recognize that principally wouldn't fit with the Spock-like logic of hey, concentrated bets, I'm not going to give $1 million to an enterprise that I think is going to fail. I get that. But, there could have been something there. And maybe there isn't that we're not sharing or not privy to, but it feels like there's a lot to learn here. I'd definitely love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please make a point of hitting that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button. Thanks so much for tuning in.